Talent, gossip, chatter, speed.
Hello and welcome back to another #Patchats, the Laugh at Pat podcast series. We're back from a little 2-week hiatus. The last 2 Fridays were Christmas, and then I think it was New Year's Day or New Year's Eve, maybe. I don't remember, but it was a time that I didn't want to do a podcast. And so I didn't, because it's my life and I'll lead it how I want to. I apologize if the audio isn't so good. It's a bit echoey in this room. You may have noticed we're here at the new Laugh at Pat Studios, so official and nice. I mean, I haven't quite. Right now it's just a green screen back here, but I'm assuming I'm going to figure out something official and nice to put up back there before tomorrow. Or maybe I won't. I don't know. We'll see. It's a very off the cuff kind of show, you know? It's just we're working some stuff out. But yeah, we're here at the new Laugh at Pat studios, by which I mean we're here in my new apartment in the beautiful district, or I learned this word in German today, Stadtbicke? I don't know, whatever. It's a neighborhood in Berlin called Neukölln, which people tell me has a lot of fun nightlife and culture. I haven't been able to experience as much of that since obviously things are pretty locked down, but I went to the park today and there was a bevy of drug dealers in the park. I mean, really, the drug dealer per capita in this park was amazing. I mean, for people who are into that kind of thing. Obviously, I'm not into it, so I'm not interested. But, as an observer, as a journalist, it was very interesting to see the per capita number of drug dealers in this park. There was like a little gazebo area, and they had like a bunch of office chairs like hanging out there. And then like I was running and there's like these like tree, like a forest kind of, but it's really like, it's like 5 trees. And like at one tree, there was like one deal happening. And then I got to the next tree, the next deal. I mean, I don't know why you would even bother to go off of the path like to this tree. There was no level of protection or any sort of secrecy happening here. It was blatant, which again, I'm happy about. To me, I was like, oh great, there's some people who want some things and some people who are trying to sell some things. It's the free market at work. It's capitalism at its best, really. Oh boy, capitalism. I guess we're going to talk about it today, but not yet. Anyways, so I'm here in the new apartment, which is what I would describe as, an artist's loft kind of a situation. It's a one large room here where I have my bed and a couple of couches, and then my brand new green screen and lighting kit, which is very, very fancy and nice. So I'm excited to get back into having that little tool in my tool belt. But some might call it, my girlfriend calls it rustic. Some might call it run down. There are a few fun details I thought I could share. One is there is no bathroom door, which if you're a Laugh at Pat fan, Bert and Val would be a huge fan of that. There's just like a shower curtain that you pull over. There is a door to the bedroom, so it's kind of like a de facto bathroom door. If someone's going to go make brown, then they got to shut the door to the bedroom here because there is no bathroom door. However, if someone were coming home and someone was on the toilet, you would open the front door and just make direct eye contact with the person sitting on the toilet. So that's just like a fun detail. For me personally, it just kind of feels like, ooh, like look at me in my fun, artist cosplay, starving artist cosplay situation. But yeah, no, it's fun. It has character. Also, the bathroom, the whole, I mean, apartment building is this style of apartment it's like older. And I should have figured out the history before I started talking about this, but there's something to do with the history where basically they used to have the bathrooms like kind of communally for the whole building, and so there weren't toilets, and so they had to add the toilets later, or maybe the showers, I'm not sure exactly, but the point is there's a toilet where there just really shouldn't be a toilet. It's like the bathroom is this very narrow room, and there's like a little sink, and then down at the end of the room is the shower, and then they just stuck a toilet just like freestanding basically in the narrow space between where the sink and the shower is. Again, character. But yeah, so that's one fun detail. The other fun detail is the heating. There's no like heating. I mean, there's heating. There's no kind of what you would imagine as like standard heating, I guess. There's a big porcelain thing over here in the corner of the room that I'm looking at right now. And you build a little fire inside of it with like kindling, like wood and then coal. And then you can open up a metal door on the bottom of it, and the hot air kind of comes out there, and you hope that you don't burn down the apartment or die of carbon monoxide poisoning. So that's kind of an exciting thing. And it is freezing cold here in Berlin right now. So, luckily there's a little space heater that we've been using. But the guy I rented the apartment from was like, yeah, like it's an all-inclusive deal with the electricity and the Wi-Fi and everything. And, some of the furniture was already here, which was exactly what I'm looking for my shorter stay here. But he was like, yeah, like, I mean, if you're going to be using the space heater a lot, it takes a lot of electricity. So we'll have to like renegotiate the price. So I'm committed to learning how to use this like coal burning heater basically. And he's going to come over tomorrow and show me. So I'll report back next week, maybe, with the result of what that is. But that's kind of another, little fun detail. You wake up and it's a bit freezing cold. Or if you leave this room, which we've been heating with the space heater, to go to like the kitchen or the bathroom, it is like icy. So yeah, again, another fun detail. It also has the kind of, those like thinner walls where you can really hear your neighbors arguing, which I feel like all of this, I'm living out a fantasy of like living in New York City, except it's more exciting because it's Berlin and Germany. And so that's been fun. That's the news of the Laugh at Pat Studios and the new digs. But I will say, actually, it is really exciting to be here. I didn't realize that I would be so excited to have my own place until I started kind of like looking for an apartment here, because I was doing the math and I realized like I haven't actually had my own. I moved out of my last like own apartment, my own place, in May of 2015, about the last time that I got a haircut actually. And so it's been a while because I've done various vagabond things. I lived out of my car. I lived with my parents a lot, probably too much for someone of my age, but we had fun. It was nice. Eventually my parents were like, you can't stay in the house anymore, but you could stay in the garage. That's not really how it happened. I mean, they would have let me stay in the house if I wanted to, but I was like, no, I'm fine with staying in the garage now that you've kind of like moved into my old room. And the garage was nice. If my parents are watching, I was very happy to be in the garage. It was a good time. Don't take it personally. Anywho, but I mean, when you're staying with your parents, you have to, if you're me, you have to, I would like to be respectful of the fact that they're nice enough that, multiple times over age 25 to 30, I've lived there. And at some point I'm living in my garage, and now my girlfriend is here and we're both living in the garage here together during this like pandemic. So they've been very kind to me. So I always want to be respectful of them. And so you have to be respectful. And so that adds like a little something, not like you don't feel at home, but it's not your place, when I work on the fishing boat, it's the same thing. I mean, it's home, it's where I'm living, but it's not my boat. So you want to be respectful. It's not yours. Anya, my girlfriend, and her roommates have been gracious enough to take me in many months of many visits here to Berlin. And I felt very comfortable and very at home there. And I love their apartment. It holds a lot of amazing memories for me. But I mean, I was always a guest, and you always remember that in the back of your head. And so I don't know. It's been 5 years since I had my own place, and so to have my own place and to know that I'm going to be settled here for this will also be the longest I've been in one place in a while. I've been here since September, and so all of those things are kind of fun to me and exciting. So that's kind of what's going on with me now. Obviously, I think we need to talk about the fact that there was kind of like a coup in America yesterday or today or whatever day it was. Yeah, that's wild. Pretty weird stuff. I was doing a little Skype with two of my good friends from back home, and we got online, and my friend was like, "Oh, have you seen the news?" And I was like, "No." Honestly, I became very just like done with politics in America during the Democratic primary, and then I mean even during the general election. I've been very turned off by the system, by the media, by both political parties. It's been disheartening, to say the least, and it was honestly causing like real, and to this day it causes like actual problems in my interpersonal relationships. It's upset me enough that like it's not something that my parents and I are probably going to talk about, for example, because we have a few basically small differences in opinions about things, and for some of my different friendships as well. We're probably generally on the same side on most issues, but we see a few things differently, and also it's like I think part of the reason why I've gotten like so upset with what's happened like politically and why it has caused problems and made it be something that I'm like, the goal is to kind of not bring it up and not talk about it with most people because it does get me upset, is that, I'm possibly like in my own echo chamber, but I mean, I guess we all see our view of the world as probably the most correct. Otherwise, why would it be our view, And that was something I was thinking about a lot today, kind of watching all of the reporting and the news on this, whatever you want to call it, which is, it's so wild, like that when something like this happens, people have like stormed the Capitol building, and like one of the big things that's being talked about and debated is just like what vocabulary we need to use about it. Was it a protest? Was it a riot? Are they terrorists? And I mean, I understand the relevancy of those issues to some extent, but it does seem like it's missing the point a little bit to be talking about it day one, and so much. It seemed like a lot of the media coverage was, and the discourse was kind of around this type of thing. But like today, I don't know, I was just thinking about it. Like I have my kind of view of the media and our two political parties, and today I was really thinking a lot about just the fact, like, how much of an echo chamber have I created for myself, because I've consumed when I was younger, I consumed a lot less news. And then as I got older and I got more interested, I started consuming more news. And then, as you get exposed to more voices and more different opinions, you start to kind of try to weed out and find the ones that feel the truest to you. And I mean, for me, I would like to think like what I'm looking for or what I'm going for is a viewpoint, or to hear opinions and reporting that are going to challenge me a little bit and aren't necessarily going to always be something that I agree with, but I feel like are authentically their points, their viewpoints, the reporters' viewpoints, and that are not being intentionally or unintentionally misleading for a narrative or for a profit or something. And I mean, so much of the media is like that, and personally, I don't really have very many conservative friends in my life. I mean, probably the most conservative people I know are people I've met like fishing, or maybe in my time living in Spokane, Eastern Washington. But I have to say, it's not like I have a lot of contact with those people. So most of the people that I have contact with are some brand of like Democrat, liberal, left. And they're, in my opinion, have become either it's always been this way and I've woken up to the fact that it's this way, or it's gotten worse over time. But there's some pretty big divides over what that means and how much I'm going to agree with you based off of that. And, I guess the thing that is disheartening to me as someone who, I mean, I voted Democrat in every single election that since I turned 18, midterms, my parents signed me up immediately for mail-in ballots, never fraudulent, by the way. I've been doing mail-in ballots since 2008. They've been probably doing it since I don't know when, but a lot longer before that. It's a logical way to vote so that you can sit at home and actually research the ballot initiatives and the candidates and know what's going on, and do it on your own time and everything. But I've become more and more disenchanted with the Democratic National Party. I think that obviously started in 2016. Seeing what they did to Bernie Sanders, and then to have the proof, brought out in documents that are inarguable as far as, the way the Democratic Party was just basically a tool of the Clinton campaign at that point, and the suppression of basically the will of the people. And I mean, then to see it happen again, this election cycle, I mean, you can, a lot of the adults in my life who I have a lot of respect for, and who there was some real animosity during this primary season, were arguing about, electability and, these points. And I still disagree with them. I think they still disagree with me. They think that someone like Bernie wouldn't have had a chance to get elected, but it's, I disagree. And I think there are some strong points of evidence, that point towards the fact that the American people are sick of both parties, and they just want the government to work for them and not just for corporate interests, which is what both parties essentially do at this point. In the general election, it was Nancy Pelosi turning down a really good COVID relief act, really, screwing the American people by not getting them those relief checks and getting that legislation passed, because she wanted to play politics basically and not let Trump get a check out to the people with his name on it before the election. And in every kind of close down ballot race, the Democrats lost. And, you could say that might have been because, Biden was a weak candidate, or, there are other arguments that you could make about why that might have been the case. But then in Georgia, both of those Democrats basically, at the end of their campaigned only on the fact that if you elect us, we will get the $2,000 stimulus checks passed. And they both won. And, that was a long shot by most political experts. The idea that the Democrats would win both of those Senate seats was a very long shot. And so, I mean, I think those little points of proof just go to show. I saw an interview with one of the people, the protesters at the Capitol today, and he was talking about the $2,000 checks. It's like they just continue to not take care of the people. And then, you see these outbursts, these things happening. And then people are kind of, they want to pin it on something simple, like, oh, it's just racism. It's just fascism. And, to some extent that stuff is true, of course, but it's also, I just think when people have good lives, there's a lot less of a reason to get out into the street, to get violent, to be shitty to other people. So it's more of a sign of the desperation and the hard times of the life of the average American, in my opinion. I don't know. And I think that's the thing that disappoints me and upsets me about what happens, what I see happening on the left. Again, like, I don't have a lot of interaction with conservative people. I just don't. And I mean, for better or for worse, that's just the way it is. But what I see happening on the left is, like, after the election, when Trump made it, a lot closer than most people expected, and gained in some interesting categories as far as voter blocks. There was this cry of, like, oh my God, look, and still, 49% of the country are just racists. And it's like, to see it boiled down to that is, like, so disappointing and, like, also disingenuous. Like, do you really believe that 49% of Americans are just racist and that's why they voted for Trump? Like, I don't know. That's crazy to me. And it's the same thing that happened, when I saw this happening yesterday, where it's like, there's this, these kind of, like, crazy right-wing people, and, people are like, I mean, this is so outrageous. Like, look at what happened to the Black Lives Matters protesters. And it's like, but it, like, is it so outrageous? Like, of course, what were you expecting? Like, this has always been the way things have been set up. It's always been, unfair, cutting in this direction. And, I saw, like, I was watching the Andrew Schultz comedy special, which I'm going to talk about later in the show in my recommendations section. And he was talking about police violence and how white people, like, kind of like the more conservative Blue Lives Matter white people would talk about, like, why was there no uproar when this white person was killed or when this white person was killed by the police? And he was like, there should be. It's outrageous anytime someone's killed by the police. It's just that it's happening disproportionately to Black people. And so that's, why there's this energy there. And I kind of feel the same way, where to see people who were, so outraged by the way the protesters, during the, all of the protests during the summer were treated, being like, we just need to, like, tear gas these guys and, all this stuff. It's, to me, I'm like, this is not the way we make things better. And then, like, to logging onto Facebook that day, it's just like liberals, like, dunking on conservatives, but just to their other liberal friends, and with, like, great memes. And to be fair, some of the memes were hilarious. There were some great memes. And I mean, comedically, the guy in the Viking hat and, like, the super, like, happy looking guy, like, running off with the thing. I mean, those are funny pictures, and I'm not going to say that they're not funny. Like, those are hilarious. It's sad. It's distressing. It makes you wonder if the country is crumbling, but they're also funny. And it's pretty disturbing. But then to see people being kind of, like, just being, going around being like, I told you so, this is what happens, blah, 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 again, I feel like it's not super, it's not really genuine to what's actually happening. And, it's the way the media lies to us. And, that's on both ends of the spectrum. There's, clear liberal bias in the media and clear conservative bias in the media. And people are kind of just consuming this stuff. I mean, I was just saying, like, I'm basically the same way. I've kind of taken my news consumption into this like alt media world of YouTube and Substack and podcasts and this kind of stuff. And we're all getting echo chambers, I guess, to some extent. But I think to not acknowledge those things, or to not acknowledge the fact that some of the games that the Democrats have been playing is equally responsible for what has happened is, it's just not true to me. And my last point is, again, like I don't know so many conservatives, but like my basic liberal viewpoint is that it's like the conservatives have it mostly wrong all the time, and their thinking is not as good, and they have a lot of it wrong. And so as such, it's like I feel like as the liberals, who I think have more facts on their side and more clear thinking on their side, it's like we need to be the adults in the room. And what I just see happening again and again is that like it's like the conservative side does something stupid and shitty, and the way we react is never the adult in the room thing. It's like it's after 8 years of Obama and conservatives being like, Obama's not my president, Trump gets elected, and immediately we're like, Trump's not my president, and we have like big marches, and it's like hashtag not my president and all this stuff. And it's like, I get it, it's like upsetting, but these responses are all to some point like, it makes sense that it keeps happening this way and it keeps playing out. And it's like, if we really want things to change and not keep getting worse, maybe we need to look at that and look at ourselves a little bit and try to be the adults in the room. So I don't know. I don't know shit about politics, but I've been thinking about it a lot, and I didn't have anyone to say it to here in Germany. And also, if you say it to people in Germany, they're like, yeah, like everything over there is a mess. And then you just feel worse about yourself. So here it is for all of you. We're going to take a little break here because my camera is almost out of time. We're going to get back and talk about some fun stuff, not all this politics bullshit. What was that? I mean, I just ranted for 20 minutes about politics sincerely and probably a bit stupidly. But there it is. That's my opinion, and I guess I'm sticking to it. And I hope you stick with me for the second half of this delightful Patchats. And we are back with the second half of our hashtag Patchats, the Laugh at Pat podcast. If you're listening on the audio channels, let me highly recommend that you go to the Laugh at Pat YouTube page and check out the video content because, videos the videos at least are way funnier to watch than to just listen to. And, I'm not good looking, but I personally, for whatever weird reason, enjoy watching people talk. So if I like it, maybe you'll like it too. I don't know. Anyways, we got a bit political in the first half. I wasn't really sure that I was going to go all the way there, but boy, did I. And also in my head, it came out a lot more eloquent with a lot better points. And in hindsight, as I'm just thinking about it having just happened and come out of my mouth, I don't know if it was really all that worthwhile, my political opinions. But again, I needed to share them, so here they are, because this is where I share those type of things. I promised that part of the new, Patchats weekly podcast series would be talking about my experience learning German. And I have been back in class, and it is hard. And I wanted to use the German word for hard, but I don't know it because I feel like I speak less German now than I did 5 weeks ago. No, I mean, look, learning languages is hard. I mean, maybe not for everybody, but for me, it's hard. Also, I think one of my big takeaways from learning German so far has been I have really set up my life in such a way that I almost exclusively do things that I want to do. You know, I mean, I might put pressure on myself to like, oh, make this video or, you know, to try to take care of myself by working out or, you know, do some sort of different project or something. But it's basically all stuff I like to do. I mean, even the fishing, it's like that's hard. It's hard work. And there are certainly moments where it's like I don't like doing it, but it's all kind of condensed into one weird, like 2-month long dream. And there's some parts that I really enjoy intensely about it as well. So I guess that's the thing about learning German is I've just realized like, man, I don't love making myself do things I don't like to do. And I would love to speak German. I would really love to be able to speak just a small amount of conversational German. The problem is I just don't really want to learn German. No, I mean, I do want to learn and getting, you know, starting to take the class, I knew this is what I needed. I need that kind of structure. I'm one of these type of people who's like, I don't like want like a conventional job or like, I don't want this like structure in my life. Like, I'm just, you know, I'm a free soul. Like, I just, you know, I do what I want and blah, blah, blah. I support drug dealers at the park, blah, blah, blah. And, but actually, deep down inside, I know I do better with a little bit of structure. I mean, it's half the reason why I started doing like a podcast or started doing these video projects is like, I mean, I enjoy it. It's like a passion project. I get a lot out of it, but also not working and, you know, traveling and stuff. It's like, I need a little something to sink my teeth into, something to wake up in the morning and be like, oh, I got to do this because you know, there's only so many mornings I can wake up and be like, ooh, what's on Yahoo News? Like, ooh, maybe I'll go down a little YouTube click hole or let me binge some Netflix. You know, it's just, I can't do that forever. So I need a little structure is what I'm saying. And so the class is providing me some good structure to, you know, really try to learn and everything. There are a few things. I mean, one, yeah, I haven't been a student in 8 years. You know, the last time I was a student, I was 22 years old, and I was not doing so great at the end. I kind of limped to the finish as far as my student life. You know, I started out real slow. Elementary school was rough. I was in a lot of special education programs. You know what I mean? Sitting in the back of the class with a special teacher's aide for a lot of it. You know, my teacher made me cry in 5th grade. I think I told that story already on here because I did so badly at a math test one time. And then in middle school, I was still a pretty terrible student. But the nice thing in middle school was that then kids in middle school was the age when kids started being fuck ups, but like not just with the classroom, you know, it was like non-classroom related fuck ups, you know, not, you know, doing shit on recesses and lunches that they weren't supposed to do, sneaking out of school, starting to smoke pot or become sexually active or any of those, you know, cool things that kids were doing in middle school that I was definitely not doing. And so that took some of the heat off me because it was like, oh, he's like a good kid. He's just stupid. He's just a bad student. So that was a good thing for me. And then I got to high school, and for some reason in high school, I just like figured it out. I mean, not in math. In math, I was straight C's the whole way. But you know what made a big difference for me was once in math when we were started to be allowed to use a calculator. When the math got hard enough that you could use a calculator, and they stopped trying to make us do like long division and know my multiplication tables. Because here's the thing, my mom, and I know I'm jumping around here a little bit, but this is relevant. It's an important, and you should listen up, okay? So my mom tried so fucking hard to get me to learn my multiplication tables. And I feel like the thing is I'm a bit strong-willed. And I mean, it's not like I have a memory of specifically thinking this, but when I look back at the memories of it, it's like there was a certain point where I was just like, I'm not going to learn this just because you're trying so hard. You know, like I remember having this laminated times table chart, and she'd make me look at it in the back of the car all the time. And like, it's like I could just take the time and try to learn the times tables, and then not have to do this task anymore. And instead it was like, I'm just going to sit here and just blank out, or just, like let my vision go blurry over this times table thing rather than just do it and learn. And so I never learned the times tables. But the point, to get back to the main point, is, in high school I started being like a good student, and I realized like, teachers seem to like kind of like me, and so I can make the difference between being like a B student and being like an A- student is just like, if I really engage with the teachers a lot and ask for a lot of help, they like that. And that was like kind of my main educational strategy. That and my reading comprehension basically got me through my entire education. And so I started utilizing that. And then also just like with that means also you have to just do everything that it's like they just want you to do it. And it's, even if you do it wrong, it's important that you just do it so that they see that you're trying. And then actually, if you get it wrong, there's a little bit of like pity there because they like you if you've built that relationship. I feel like I'm sounding like a sociopath right now. Just like I was like 14 years old, just being like, I've cracked the code to being a good student. I just have to manipulate my teachers with my personality. Yeah. Anyways, still better than my politics rant. Anyways, so I was not such a great. I started to become a better student, and I'll give myself some credit. I'm not like the stupidest person. I have, in my mind, I guess the nice thing that I would come back to circle back to German here for a minute. The nice thing about being in a learning setting again and a classroom setting again after 8 years is it's just like a great reminder of all the learning disabilities that I forgot I had. All of the focus issues. Like after the first day of class, Anya was asking me like, "Oh, like how was the class?" And I was like, "Oh, it was like pretty good." There's this one girl in the class who has just incredible hair. It's like the hair from Tangled, except for like dark. And she was just playing with it a lot. And it was like the main thing I remembered from day one in my German class. And she was like, you really can't, like, you have some troubles with like focusing, which is, yeah, it's probably fair. So to finish my story, I got to college and I was doing pretty good. And then it kind of started to all fall apart at the end. My life in general at the end of college was kind of all falling apart, which was fine. But I feel like I finished college and I thought to myself, like, never again, much like 9/11, never again. But that me being a student, going to school was my 9/11. It's a joke. I'm sorry, Mom. And Anya's mom, if you're watching, I apologize. I think I'm funny, but I'm also by myself here. And I've always thought I was hilarious. That's probably one of my strong suits, if I'm being honest. I've always cracked myself up. People have made fun of me throughout my life for the fact that a lot of times before I say the thing that I think is about to be funny, I start laughing because I already think it's funny. And a lot of times other people don't think it's funny. That's why it's called laughatpat, because even if you don't think what I think is funny, you can laugh at me being so stupid to think that it's funny. Anyways, so I'm in this German class and it's reminding me of my learning disabilities, and it's the thing about it is, not to get sincere here, I think we already had a nice solid 20 minutes of sincerity in the first half of the show. So, but I guess being a little bit older and with a little more perspective now, it's like I can tell myself, doing things that are hard are like good for you. I mean, like, this is good for my brain. This is good this is just good for me. I'm gonna gain something from this. Even if I don't learn German, even if after 6 months of taking German classes 5 days a week and doing German homework for another hour or two every day as well, even if after all of that I don't learn any German, I'll still have gained something from the experience, just from the challenge of it, just from the forcing myself to do it. So, that's a good perspective, I think, to have now as an adult, that I can think that way. I mean, it doesn't necessarily always make it easier, at a certain point when you look at the clock and you're like, oh my God, like we are 1/3 of the way through this class right now and I am zoned out. Like I am ready to do something else. I need to get up right now. Yeah, I will continue the struggle. The other hard part is it's like, or I guess I should say the other interesting part of going through the learning experience of trying to learn German is that it just like so clearly shows me all of the flaws in my personality and just like the way that I deal with things and deal with this kind of like adversity, I guess you would call it. I mean, it's not adversity. I'm just literally learning a second language. What everybody in the class except for me basically has already done. Everybody already speaks at least 2 languages, and German is gonna be like 3 or 4 for most of them. And I'm over here like the adversity that I am going through trying to learn this language. It's pretty stupid. But like what was my point about that? The adversity of it is good, I guess. Man, I really had a point that I was gonna land on there, but I didn't. Yeah. Oh well. I guess the point is, this idea that it's like, it's hard, and so that means it's good for me. Just because you know that doesn't necessarily make it easier. It's like, I know I'll feel better if I go to bed at a good hour, make sure I get a full night's sleep, eat, only healthy foods, stop having sweets, don't drink any alcohol, exercise regularly. I know I'll feel amazing if I do those things. Doesn't necessarily mean that I do them all the time because, I mean, fuck, come on. I'm not that kind of sociopath. I'm more of the, manipulate my high school teachers with my personality kind of sociopath to increase my grade point average. This is a funny part about my student history. Literally, the point that I turned it around as a student was I got really into sports when I was in 7th grade. Like obsessed, I would go read the sports section every day. First thing when I got to middle school, I would go to the library, I'd get the sports section, read the sports section. I was like listening to sports talk radio constantly, as you might remember from the previous Pat Chat where I literally listed the programming schedule of the local sports talk radio station I used to listen to. Like I was so into it. But I was also, as an 11-year-old, I was already just a realist, and I was like, I mean, I'm already fat and I'm 11 and I have basically, 6 years of schoolyard games to tell me that I also don't have any hand-eye coordination. And so I'm probably not going to make it as a pro athlete. So I very quickly pivoted from the typical probably like middle schooler dream of like, I want to play in the major leagues to I'll be an announcer. I'm going to be a sports announcer. And so then that became the dream. Then I could like still be involved and I could be watching sports every day, which is what I thought I wanted at the time, but now would be a nightmare for me. And so when I think starting in like 8th grade, I had this PE teacher who was like really supportive of this and was like also into sports and stuff. And he was telling me like all the greatest sports announcers went to Syracuse University, and like, John Miller, who was like a hero of mine at the time, a famous baseball announcer, he went to Syracuse, and he went down the list of all these people. And so I was like, I've got to go to Syracuse. Like, this is the thing. And I was really like committed to this idea. And I really was like, okay, now I have to start getting good grades. Otherwise I can't get into Syracuse. And that was like part of what motivated me to turn it around. And that's another little personal story that I'm not exactly sure why I told it to you guys, but yeah, so I'm learning German, and it's fucking hard. And but I'm gonna keep fighting the good fight. I know it's gotta get easier. It's hard to. I guess that maybe the thing I was gonna say was like we learn some of the words we're learning and stuff. It's just like why am I learning the word for invoice in like week 2 of German? Like let's just like concentrate on some of the like so I can make some basic sentences, and I don't need to learn the word for printer or like let's focus on some simple in front of, behind, on top of, I want, I need, I should, I like, this kind of stuff. And that was my point, I guess, that I didn't finish. this cannot be entertaining for anyone. But I'm enjoying doing it, and that's the whole part of the thing. That's the process, is that I enjoy doing it, and that's why I do it. And but the point was the character flaws, and what it brings out in me is this: I get angry. Like, I find myself getting angry at my girlfriend for being German and speaking this like shitty, annoying language to learn, which is so insane. Like, as it's happening, I can pull myself back and be like, you're insane. You're an insane person who's upset with a person for where they're from and what their mother tongue is, and you chose to date them. If anything, you kind of forced them to date you. I mean, you really pursued them until they were like, okay, fine, I'll date you. So it's 100% on me. And then, like, in the same way too, I'll like find myself getting annoyed at the teacher and being like, hey, this is so stupid. Like, why are we learning this word? This is like, not like, oh, they've taught hundreds of people to speak German. This is like an established system. This is their literal job. They probably know more than me, and I'm like, so dumb. Why are we learning this right now? And I love when I catch myself in my own bullshit. Because like in the first section of the class, that part of the way they teach a language is they mostly only speak in that language. So like she's teaching everything in German, and I'm like, how am I supposed to understand or know what's going on if she's just speaking German the whole time? Like, this is bullshit. Like, I'm not learning anything because I don't even know, like, when she says the page number to turn to, she's saying it in German, and I haven't figured out my numbers because I didn't know my numbers in English, and now I don't know them in German. And then in the new section of the class, the new teacher was speaking a bit more English, and I'm like, they're speaking too much English. Like, how am I supposed to learn German if I'm not like hearing it every day? It's just like, why am I so full of shit? Good questions, but who knows? Like, let's just see. Hopefully, if I just keep trying, I'll learn some goddamn German, and it'll get easier. Okay, so we've got like a little bit of time left. A new section of the show I wanted to talk about, and I need to write the timestamp down. 1910 Yahoo. So I am a lover of the news site Yahoo News, which is garbage. Anya makes fun of me all of the time for the fact that I'm watching this, or I'm like visiting this news site like multiple times a day. It's just easy. It's easy. It's like when you used to go to the grocery store and they would have like the trashy kind of tabloids there, but also like a news week. That's what Yahoo News is. It's like there's like a sports headline, like one kind of real news headline, some like celebrity bullshit gossip, some like insane stuff sometimes. And it's just easy. It's like the type of place where, people say like, oh, I read an article, but they're just talking about the headline. That's Yahoo News. And that's what I do on Yahoo News. So you go there, you check out the headlines with the nice little photo, and it's in a layout that's like exciting. They refresh it like every, few hours or something, so that you can check really a lot, which really helps the Yahoo News addiction. And so I want to have a section on the show where I just take screenshots of different ridiculous headlines I found on Yahoo News, and now I feel like this news story is gonna like just totally disappear. But I saw this and I just had to talk about it. But there's this mysterious guy who blew up an RV in Tennessee, and there are a lot of theories about it. And so Yahoo News put up a headline at some point, and it's Tennessee bomber may have believed lizard people myth. Anthony Quinn Warner may have believed that many of the world's most powerful figures are evil lizard-like extraterrestrials in disguise, investigators say. And just like the photos that they chose to put with this is just like, it really goes to show the level of journalism that they put forward on this platform. And the headline is funny. I mean, it might be true. There's also something, I just saw an interesting interview with a guy, and they were talking about conspiracy theories, and like, that's something that's really like hotly talked about now with COVID and now with this kind of like coup thing, and there are a bunch of QAnon people, conspiracy theorists, and I think this this vilification of conspiracy theories is a bit stupid. I mean, there are ones that are obviously stupid and obviously fake, and like something like QAnon, I understand that it's dangerous. But the term conspiracy theory was created by the CIA as a kind of delegitimize real stories, real espionage, real corruption. And you see that borne out today. I mean, there are a lot of ridiculous conspiracies happening now, but there's also a lot of stuff that holds a little bit of water and is dismissed as conspiracy. And the danger of just dismissing all conspiracy or starting to censor speech around conspiracy is that some of these stories are not going to come out. And that's something that I didn't get to in my political rant that I do have to add. It's what's really horrifying to me is like just the censorship, the idea that we as liberals and the left are just like, yay, like Facebook, Twitter, like take away Trump's Twitter account. It's what's disturbing is in general to see how the Democrats have become the party of censorship, where, I was raised by, people who were Democrats of the 60s and 70s who were the anti-censorship party, who would, defend the KKK's right to march in the streets and hold parades and stuff, because they knew it's a slippery slope. Once you say that they can't do it, then, things like civil rights marches and these types of things can't happen. And so, the censorship and the kind of signing on to censorship that's happening with the tech companies and just in general with liberalism is worrying. See how we took a fun second half of the show and I just... stupid that no, that's not happening. We're gonna make it serious and scary and stuff. Okay, we've got a few minutes left, and I do want to talk about the stuff that I'm into this week. And the first thing I wanted to bring up was a song by my friend Ryan. My friend Ryan, his last name is like, the thing is I should know how to pronounce it. Like, he's a good friend of mine. I like him a lot. His name, Ryan Lioza. It's like an Italian name. It's spelled Iozzia. And he just came out with a song called Dotting the Hills that the creator of the Real Fake Facts theme song and the Patchats theme song, Sam Faw, another friend of mine, played guitar on. And it's a really cool song. And I really enjoyed it. And I think you guys should check it out. I'm going to put a link to the YouTube song in the description of this video. And so yeah, I recommend that you check it out. It's a really good song, and he's a talented musician and someone who I used to work with at the health food store and had some influence on me creatively, kind of his commitment to his art, and also, a level of like just it being about the process and the work was something that inspired me. So I want to recommend that. The other thing I wanted to talk about is, obviously I talked a little bit about politics today and the media and this kind of stuff. And, it's possible that I've created my own echo chamber. But in my opinion, some of the journalists that I've really come to trust and rely on in these times, I think have really valuable insights and very reasonable points of view, and are really worth checking out. And so I wanted to recommend some of those. Thomas Frank is an author, and he has a couple of books. I've only read one of them, but it's called Listen Liberal. And but his other books are supposed to be really good as well, and I really enjoyed that. And I found him through a podcast interview that he did, a couple of podcast interviews that he did that were, again, also super insightful about populism and about the history of populism in the United States, and definitely worth looking into. And I discovered him on Useful Idiots, which is Matt Taibbi and Katie Halpert's podcast, which they do a really good job of kind of dissecting what's happening in the news currently, and kind of cut both ways against the Republicans and the Democrats and both of their failures. And Matt Taibbi also has some really, really good articles on Substack. He has a really fantastic book called Hate Inc. that talks about kind of the failures of the media and whatnot. That's also really worth checking out. I also really enjoy Glenn Greenwald, his podcast appearances. He also has some really good articles on Substack. Aaron Mate and the Pushback podcast is another great one, and he did a lot of really great reporting, debunking this kind of like Russiagate conspiracy and kind of revealing a lot of the disingenuous nature of that. So I have to recommend all those. Edward Onwego is another great reporter. I also really love Rising with Crystal Ball. And I'm running out of time here. So those are just some journalistic voices that I've really appreciated in the last few years, and I highly recommend. So thank you guys for watching as always. Of course, subscribe, support, all of that, mumbo jumbo, and until next Friday or the next time I feel up to doing another podcast, I'll see you later.